Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Workflow Wednesdays. Today, we're going to talk about offboarding. Now, whether you like it or not, at some point, people are going to leave your organization. It could be retirement, they might want to change careers at some point, or you make a call and you let them go for good or bad reasons. But why automate this? Is offboarding really that common? Well, actually, it is. The average turnover in the US is about 17%. That means if you have 100 people working in your organization, you can expect more than one person to leave on average every single month. Bigger organization, a lot more people. About 71% of orgs don't have a formal offboarding process. About 76% of leaders acknowledge that offboarding is a significant security threat. Close to 90% of former employees still have access to sensitive company data post their departure. And about 60% of data breaches are being attributed to insider threats, including those posed by former employees. Furthermore, effective offboarding can have a lasting impact on employer branding and future recruitment. About 15% of people that leave an org return to their former employers, which is especially a strong trend with younger people. And finally, the offboarding experience can influence these decisions and shape our narrative shared by departing employees as well as existing employees within an organization. So how do you create a journey for all of this? Well, that's what we're going to do today. Let's take a look at it. Now, within journeys, we've already built 3 different types of journeys here. We've built a simple offboarding journey that can be used for any case of scenario around offboarding. We've also created a voluntary departure from the employee and then an involuntary departure. For this Workflow Wednesday, we're going to start by taking a look at the voluntary departure and just taking a look at all the different actions that have been put together here. So to begin with, when a traveler enters this journey, the first thing that's going to happen is that a form gets sent out. This particular form is an offboarding form for a manager. So if we just take a look at it, you can see that the manager is being asked to put up reasons for why this person is leaving. Is it because they resigned? Did they get fired? Was it a demotion? And there could be other different options. It's also just to have a little bit of paper trail here on the reasons to explain the reasons why the departure is happening. And this just can be a long text field with deep explanations. Then there are some basic questions which are going to trigger different things in the process at a later stage. The first one being, do we need a replacement? And if the supervisor clicks yes, that's going to trigger a process with HR to make sure that we start to look for a new hire, either within the org or externally. And then there's some items for IT, such as if you have in some orgs there's ID number that's going to trigger a lot of different things, and just some questions about some of the things like if they had a laptop or phone or other things at the org. It's also just to kind of put up the importance of having an exit interview. So basically, this also encourages the manager to put in a date for that if they haven't thought about it already. But this is going to be the first step here. Now, once once the manager fills this out about an employee that's departing, the first thing that's going to happen is that HR is going to get notified. And we just added a hard-coded email here. This could also be something built from within the system, but just something like the HR email of the company could be here, or a certain individual responsible for this. And they're just going to get known that this individual just resigned and that they've been notified about it. There might also be a chance here to add information from the offboarding form that was filled out by the manager. So you could basically just pick the form itself, and you can see here this is the form, the action that was above this email. And here's all the questions that were asked. So we could basically start saying reasons for leaving and write that in the email, or we could point them out to look at the form itself within the system if it's sensitive data and we don't want it to go out in an email. But basically we could write up something like reason for leaving and then actually put in the answer for why that was the reason. So the first steps are pretty simple. We send out a form. The supervisor fills it out, and an email notifies HR. Then we have a branch here, and a branch means that all the actions below the branch are going to trigger simultaneously. Now, the first thing we're going to check is, do we actually need a replacement? Well, yes. In this case, we do need a replacement, so we're going to send a form to HR to start looking for one. We didn't really fill out this form, so we just sent something basic here, like please confirm that this has been completed by HR. But again, this could be a more sophisticated journey that could have its whole new process for HR on what they should do if they actually do need to find a replacement. Also, maybe this shouldn't go to HR. Maybe this should be the manager. So it just depends on how the org is structured with regards to new hires and who is responsible for doing these tasks. Second thing, request the offboardee to fill out ongoing project statuses, necessary knowledge, those sorts of things. And this is something that often gets forgotten. So really build out a form here and make sure to ask all the important questions from the person leaving, either for the new person who is going to come on board or for other reasons. Next item, ask the manager to confirm that a farewell gathering has been organized. So this is something that the manager gets as a task. It's also optional to, instead of having this just a form sent out, to actually create this as a ticket in systems like a ticketing system like Asana or Jira, and then instead of just sending a form for them to do this, to actually create a task in whatever system you have integrated with this. But make sure that the task does get completed and having a farewell gathering for the person leaving. If you don't have any of these task management systems, it's also just fine to have a checkbox just to make sure that these things have been completed, to make sure that the journey overview is in one place. Then we have some wait actions. Now these wait actions trigger at different times. This one is going to trigger, if we start with this one, 7 days before the last workday. So a week before even though the person has notified that they're leaving, they might not actually leave the organization until the resignation period is ended. So that could, in some cases, that could be 6 months, others 3, in some cases the same day. So in this case, 7 days before someone leaves, we're going to trigger these two things. First, we're going to inform the person leaving that they're going, and here you can write some really nice structured email for that part, specifically around things like returning company assets. The other thing that we could also do is to have a form sent out where a survey goes out to the person that's being offboarded. So, asking specific things about the company. This could also be the form that's here. Maybe it makes sense to send this at a particular date. So again, when the time is right to put these out, you can do that. But in this example, maybe a survey a week before makes sense. Here we also have something happening and triggering on the 1 day before they leave, and that's just a reminder to the supervisor that there's an exit interview tomorrow if that's been scheduled at that particular time. So really, just making sure that those things have triggered. And this can also, again, the exit interview itself, the reason why it's going to go out on the right date is because we asked about the exit interview in the form here. So the exit interview date that goes in here, that's actually automatically going to trigger 1 day before the interview is put in. So that's another smart way of how you configure things like dates that you ask about in one place, how you can actually reuse it in a different place with things like wait dates. And then the final actions here, on their last workday, 9 in the morning and 5 o'clock, you're going to have different things trigger. Again, we're using the last work date as a key field here, but that's a date where you can remind payroll, HR, IT that this is the last work day of that employee. And this is also a form where you can just send out a form to supervisors just to confirm that everything has been done. And maybe email is not enough. Maybe you want to send a text message and you want to send reminders to really make sure people fill this out and do it at a critical rate, every single day after the person has departed, like make sure this has been completed. So there are various ways of configuring this, but in this example, it's just an email that goes out to that individual. If you use other things in email, if you have other systems like, Slack or Microsoft Teams, you can also have this sent out as a message to certain channels or to certain individuals. or closed channels or certain individuals that make sense to get these types of messages as reminders. So the only important thing to note is to be able to do that, you just need to add Slack or Team or whatever tool you use as an integration in the system. And then the final part here, on the last workday at 5 o'clock, make sure to remove access to all systems, and then this offboarding journey has been completed. Now let's take a look at how this would potentially look different if we had a different type of journey. So if we go for the involuntary departure, it's a little bit differently. Now the company is deciding to let someone go. And in this case, it's going to start off in a pretty similar manner. There's a form that goes off to the manager asking them to let basically the company know when the last workday will be, explain the reasonings, and very similar questions are going to trigger these departure reasons. But then in this case, because potentially they haven't done all the formal things or let the individual who is about to depart receive a resignation letter, in this case the resignation letter itself has been uploaded to the system, and all the information about the employee here is automatically going to get pre-filled, so the document itself actually gets created. And this is just a simple document for this particular demo, but you can upload any Word document. And when you upload it, just make sure that you have the variables in these curly braces, because once you have the person's name, who is the offboardee's name, the person leaving the org, once you've added that, this is actually going to replace that. So you can take a look at how this automates pre-filling documents like a resignation letter. Now, once the resignation letter has been created, it's going to notify HR. It's going to confirm that the employee has actually received the letter. So that's just a checkbox. And this is very different between locations and different legal environments. So make sure you comply with all of those. But in this case, it could be a written letter and a confirmation that the employee has been notified and given this particular letter. And here you can have different conditions. Do we need a replacement? Do we not? We don't need a replacement, or if the person is leaving immediately or not. And so it's going to trigger different things depending on those, depending on how those questions were answered. Now, again, these are just super simple examples of how you can build an offboarding journey. But I encourage you just to give it a try. Go in, start with something simple, think about how you did it the last time within your organization, and then iterate from there. There's plenty of templates, and if you need any help, you can always go to the left corner of the support chat and ask for questions, and our team would be more than happy to help. Thank you.